Okay, so I'm recording this so I can show, right, all the changes they've done so far, right? And it's a fucking mixed bag, because in one part it's good, in another part it's really fucking bad. So it's like a 50-50. Not even 50-50. I'm gonna be honest with you. It's like 30%'s good, 70% of it is overwhelmingly just negative. Like it's like the game went back almost 10 years in game design. And I'm gonna try to show you all of it, right? But first, let's go with the good, because there's so little good, and you know, we got to give credit where credit is. So we're gonna first go over the good, and then we're gonna go over all the bad shit. Okay? So the first good, right? And something I was discussing earlier is the transmog change. Okay? So the way they did the transmog change is really cool, right? So now you have outfits, and this will be 24/7 on your character. So if you get a new item and you equip it, bang, doesn't matter. Your outfit replaces it, okay? Which is a good change. That's actually a really good change, and gold-wise, it saves it. Even though there's a negative to that, which we'll circle back to in a second. They also did another cool thing, which is they added something called situations. And I think they stole this from Final Fantasy XIV, which is, depending what you're doing, your outfit will auto-change, right? So if you go to situations, right, this is my outfit, but in the character selection screen, in dungeons, and in raids, right? But when I'm leveling, right, it's going to be in resting area, house, world, and delves is going to be this. And it just auto switches it, okay? So this is a really cool system. It's actually really cool and a really interesting way for people to use different transmogs. This is like a big W, like actually a massive W. And I can imagine that like the back end of working all this shit was very difficult for Blizzard. So credit where credit is. The only downside to this is two things. Is the prices are whack, in the sense that the way it used to be for transmog is the price of your transmogging of item would be the same value of price of the item's gold value. So if the item cost 1 gold, the cost to change that item would be 1 gold, right? And for high-end level characters, this doesn't matter, because, you know, you probably have a lot of gold, right? Probably are carrying a shit ton of gold, right? Like my character, he has, well, this character exactly, I think, Flacco, he has 3 million. So in your main character, it's not an issue. But the big issue this runs into is when you're leveling alt characters. Because there's a set value to the item you're changing, right? So if you change this to this item right here, right? That's going to cost you 537 gold, right? And unless you preemptively send gold to your character, like level 1, level 2, level 10, whatever it is, you're kind of cooked. Now, with that said as well, right? There's also another thing too here is that if you want to test out items like you used to, like a lot of people would want to, you know, mess around with items, or a lot better said, not a lot of people, a lot of cosmetic fiends like me, they would want to test out different items to see how it looks on their character because of combat animations. You know, one item can look really cool, but then the minute you do combat animations, it looks like ass, right? So in this sense, that this is kind of a big L, because if I want to do that, I'm basically changing 500 gold, and then to go back to the same item I was running before, it's another 500 gold. So just to test something out is like 1K. That's kind of a big fuck up. That's a huge thing they gotta adjust, right? And the simple solution, honestly, is just make this be the same pricing it was before, like the way it was before, where it's the cost of the item is how much it costs you to change it, right? That's all you have to do. I get where they're coming from, because they wanted to have a specific value to the item, right? Because this is a forever thing. And if you think about it from that perspective, it makes sense that it costs maybe a little bit more, right? Because you're setting it forever. And in that sense, you're saving yourself a lot of gold. But in the other side, right? If you're leveling alts, this is just atrocious. And also you don't get to test items. So they need to rein in the pricing, right? So that's the first thing, is this transmog system. But I love this. I love the situational stuff. I love the custom sets. You have all your like old sets items you're wearing is all here. That's a big W. Your traditional set pieces, full set pieces are all here. Also, just a little fun fact. When you log in the first time, your set is going to be here. Your guy will be load up with no transmog, no cosmetic, but the set you were wearing right before this update is going to be right here, right? That's where why it says custom set here. That was what I was wearing before this update. Okay, so that's that. So that's the transmog change. Now, the fucking add-on change. Okay, where the fuck do we begin? So, the add-on change, from everything I've read, no one seems to like it. And it's in two fronts, because the initial goal behind the add-on change was for people to not use that many add-ons. But the result of the add-on change they've done now is made people use more add-ons. And I'll get into detail about that in a second. So why am I saying that? Okay. So first off, there used to be an add-on called Weak Auras, right? And Weak Auras was an add-on that you could use to create basically a bunch of small add-ons into it, right? And they weren't combat focused. Weak Auras is supposed to be combat focused, but it can be used for a lot of things. It can be used to be like an off-brand version of DBM. It could be used for collections. It can be used for simple stuff like fishing. It's a very Swiss blade army knife type of add-on, right? But Blizzard with this change, and it almost feels directed. They completely murdered Weak Auras. They went out of their way to straight up just assassinate Weak Auras, right? And the catalyst of doing that has affected of all other things in two fronts. So front one, right? If you were using Weak Auras for fishing, not combat related, right? Because Blizzard's whole shit about this add-on change has been like, well, we want to fight we want to, normalize combat so that everyone can. There's no advantage of like someone using Weak Auras and not, which that's also pretty dumb, but whatever. Regardless, if you were using Weak Auras for fishing, right? Well, now you're cooked because that's gone, right? So now what you have to do is Weak Aura, which would do like 20 add-on functions, is now you have to download those 20 other add-ons, right? Which defeats the purpose of having less add-ons. So that's problem one. Problem two, add-ons are not combat related at all. Like for me, I used to have a really cool add-on that put like a rare mob on my character's frame when he was leveling, right? And then it would put an elite frame on him when he reached max level. It's just purely a cosmetic thing. It had nothing to do with gameplay. That got murdered. That got old yellow. That got took it out back and shot. It's gone. It's dead. It ain't coming back. Unless they've changed it, which I doubt it. And I also had another add-on which it would show my character's face, like him moving around, similarly to like Warcraft 3, where you pick your hero head and the hero head would be showing there. It would be like that, right? That's gone too. Straight up murdered, right? So add-ons have nothing to do with combat, also got affected by this, which is a big L. Now, we're going to segue into something that's a bit strange, which is the new system they put in to replace for add-ons, right? Because their idea was, well, we're going to take this away. We're going to give you something in return, right? Okay. And it's good and it's bad. It's both, right? So what they gave was this. Where is it? Right here. Gameplay enhancement. And you go here to advanced cooldown settings. You might have heard some sound effects. I'll explain that in a second. So realizing that, this game is unplayable. This game is literally unplayable at a high-end level without those systems. Blizzard put in their own systems. And that's okay. That's an all right compromise. But that compromise only works if those systems are as powerful or as not even powerful, if they worked as well as their previous counterpart add-on. And they just don't. They fundamentally don't. And I'll show you how. So I used to have an add-on. By the way, I've never used Weak Auras, not a fan of it. Too much of a big IQ to use it. I'm a small IQ person. I used Need to Know, and all Need to Know was a simple add-on which it counted down my cooldowns coming down. That's all it did. Very simple. Very easy to use. It was just you type in a command. I'm like, I want to track Blade Storm, right? And it shows that, right? Well, now I can't use Need to Know anymore. Need to Know is gone. So I'm forced to use Blizzard's system. And in one part, it's relatively okay. Like I can see someone who uses this and they can survive with this, but it feels bad because if I want to track specific things, I can't track that anymore. If I want to track my trinket, right? So I can line up a proc, so I can line this all up. My avatar, my Blade Storm, my trinket, I can't do that anymore. That's gone, right? And that feels bad. Like that actually feels really, really bad. Like there's this is beyond basic. Like there's there's basic stuff that you can't even, it's not even well organized. Like this is supposed to track debuffs you put on an enemy target and your own buffs. Okay, but what if I want to separate my buffs to be over here and the debuffs to be over here on the target? I can't do that. I have to have it all stacked, right? So I've been trying, right, for the last few hours to optimize this as close to as what I had my add-ons before, right? And this is so far what I had. And it kind of sucks because it forces certain things I don't want. I don't want to have icons here on my screen. If it were up to me, I would have them like bars, like down here. But I can't. It has to be like this, right? There's no choice in it. So this is what I'm able to do. But that's too much negative. Let's get to a little bit of positive. As a baseline system, this is actually really well done. But it needed more time in the oven. It needed way more time in the oven. They were cooking, but this came out raw. This needed like maybe I want to say maybe a year more of development, and this would have probably been really good, right? But you can kind of see that their head was kind of in the right direction. So cool things you can do, right? Right here, this tracks essential cooldowns, right? All these are cooldowns I want to track. When I'm in combat, they'll appear, and I can track them on my character in real time, right? And I can even add sound effects, right? So, and they added in some really cool sound effects. Like it's kind of sad because I think they should have put in more. But again, that goes back to what I said earlier. They needed more time. They added in sound effects from Warcraft 2. They've added in sound effects from Warcraft 3. They added in some basic sound effects. The Warcraft 3 sound effects kind of cringe because they added like the worst ones. The only good one is the wolf howl and maybe like the magic summer, but the other ones are pretty good. The Warcraft 2 one's pretty good, pretty keynote. They did a good job on that. So that's like the positive on that. And you can, and again, weakerers used to be able to do this, right? You can combine these to have multiple alarms so that when your spell is off cooldown, right? When it's fully off cooldown, it'll make a sound effect and it'll tell you like, hey, Bladestorm is up or Avatar is up, right? So that's cool. That's really cool, W. And it shows you the countdown on here, right? Only thing is, it just visually to me, this isn't appealing. I know a lot of people have it this way. I didn't. I had mine in a very unique way because I like the old aesthetic way of like WoW back from like Legion, MoP, WoD, classic basically. I've always found that aesthetic. That's why I have my UI all set up like this. But regardless, that's the new system they put in, right? Which is good as a baseline for people who don't like using add-ons. This is a good cover for that. If you like using add-ons, this just feels bad because it's a big contrast from what you had and what you're getting. Like it's a huge switch, right? So you can track, and these are all the only, oh, and that's another thing. These are the only spells you can track. The spells you can track are the ones they put here. You have no choice in the matter. You can't, it's not like, again, the flexibility of add-ons where I can track everything, even a trinket, right? I can't do that anymore. I can only track this and this. That's it. That's all I have the choice of, right? And that feels really bad when you compare to add-ons. But, you know, if you're new to WoW, right, and you don't use add-ons, this is a good, this might be a good, like, baseline for someone, right? How is it going to work in Dungeons and Raids? I don't know. I haven't tested that far out yet. I'll test that out and report back to you on that. But that's how it is, right? So let me just exit here. Now I'm going to show you some gameplay so you can see it, right? And then after that, I'm going to go to classes and what the issue of classes. Okay. So first I'm going to show you this and I'm going to circle back to classes. All right. So you see when I'm in combat, it pops up. Right. Pop Bladestorm. You see? Now, apologies. This might take a second because I'm gonna try to speed up the cooldown of that, so you can hear the sound effects and everything, right? And you can see the visuals of it. And again, as a baseline, this isn't necessarily bad. It's just they didn't have to rip out add-ons. What I think the best optimal solution would have been is that they run this, they keep building the system up, and they allow people to use add-ons. And once this system is fully done, they're like, hey guys, now it's time to transition over to our system, right? Because now we are as useful as WeakAuras or as useful as X and Y add-ons, right? But to force it this way as an ultimatum is just atrocious. It's just bad. It's very short-sighted. It's not well thought out. It's going to be detrimental in the long term for the game health. I think I've already seen if you see the sound effects, right? And the ding, ding, ding. Really cool fact that they put the Warcraft 2 stuff, right? But yeah. But regardless, that's how that works. Okay. So now we're going to go to classes and talents. Okay. So warriors, arms warrior, we're saved. we're good. We're one of the only few specs that got out pretty good out of this shit show. We're, you know, all of our systems, everything, pretty solid, pretty big W, right? And most of my spells I had before, they're relatively there. I had to sacrifice some talents to keep them, but they're all here, right? And we actually got kind of an improvement gameplay-wise, right? I cannot say the same for other classes, which I'm going to show you right now. I'm going to log out. I'm going to show you other classes, right? Now, mind you, I haven't tried every spec. I've tried the ones I've seen on the beta that were like the worst state to see if they're in a better state, right? But let me show you Blood DK, because you main a Blood DK, right? Okay. Blood DK, what they did to you guys, fucking sad, like genuinely depressing. Because it really feels like the antithesis for Blizzard's changes with the system is just, listen, we don't want you thinking bad. We don't want you thinking at all. You know, taps your little head. No. Thinking hurts your brain. We will do that for you. So the game design for a lot of stuff has kind of gone retroactively back. It's like DK, Blood DK right now. Right now I'm in Frost. I'm going to show you Blood DK. Oh, give me 1 second. Sorry about that. Okay, sorry about that. Random phone call from nowhere. Okay, anyway, so this is Frost DK. And this is actually a good example of one of the changes. And then I'll switch over to Blood. Frost DK's got murdered. And Frost DK's, it's just strange why they would want to even change them, because the last patch, Frost DK's got a huge overhaul. And Frost DK's were really simple. As simple as Ret Paladins. If I had to say the 3 most simple specs right now, it would have been Beastmasters, who have always historically been simple. Ret Paladins, who were made simple within the first patch of War Within, and now DKs. And they've made all 3 of them more simpler. And it boils down to the question of like, well, shit, man, like, what are we going to do? Are we just going to be a 1-button spec? Because this is really almost a 1-button spec. This is really your core rotation is right here. It's my RTFG. You have Obliterate, you have Hauling Blast, Pillar of Frost, which you use occasionally. It's like your big buff, if you want to say it that way. And then your Frost Strike. And everything else is just extra, right? But this is your main rotation, right? And this is talented in, right? So this feels bad because this right here is a movement spell. This used to be up here. All my main combat spells historically have been through 1 through G since WoD. And not even... And that's what is really concerning. This doesn't even fit in my entire rotation specs. And I'll give you a worse example. Beastmaster, I literally only have RTFG, and everything else is all my utilities are all on my main bar. That is a big L. That should never be the case. This is an MMO. This is a computer game. The idea is having multiple keybinds, not even necessarily multiple keybinds, but if the game is giving you baseline 24 action bar, right? Like this is your main action bar. Your main action bar is from here to here. It's 24, right? And then above is extra. But if the game is giving you 24 action bar, you need to at least cover 12 of that. And this doesn't even get to that point. So this is already like where we're heading in with an issue, right? So this is Frost DK. Let me swap over to Blood so I can show you what's going on with Blood. And we'll get to this, the complexity of gameplay. So this is Blood, right? And just on looking at it, before I do anything, what do you think your rotation is right here, right? Your rotation is really, really brain dead. It's literally Bone Rend. You stack this up to 12, and then Death Strike, and then when you have Runic Power, Heart Strike to generate her Runic Power. Apologies. That's your entire rotation. And before, and that's how it is now. That's all. This is all you're doing. Is you're keeping your bone shield up. You're Heart Striking to generate your Runic Power, and you're Death Striking to using it. That's it. That's your entire rotation. And your emergency buttons are here and Dancing Runeblade, which is both an emergency button and a major cooldown if you want to use Verdant. And you have Consumption, which they made Consumption really bad. Consumption now, well, not necessarily bad. This is a what if. I'm not totally on an opinion on this yet. I have to test this out more. Because the way it works is basically you're supposed to put a Blood Plague and then it absorbs it, and then based on the percentage it absorbs, it does a massive damage. But the problem is that this only apparently works when you have your Apex talents, which we don't have that yet. That comes within midnight when we reach max level. So this is your rotation. It's just 3 buttons. It's this and this. I don't even think, and I've played Wrath Classic again when it came out. I played a Death Knight. I've played WoW my entire life almost. Not even Wrath Classic Death Knight was this simple. That is really bad. This is a big L. And for comparison, right? People might argue, well, this is similar to how it was in War Within, the last expansion. But it's not, though, because the last expansion, there was a talent called Tombstone, right? And that talent made you have to use your Bone Shield as an extra resource. So it would be like, hey, if you want, you can consume 5 of your Bone Shields and use that as an extra shield for health. And that was interesting gameplay because it made this thing that is just something you're supposed to keep now. You can risk it as an extra shield, right? And that extra thought process behind it is what made the gameplay enjoyable, right? Vice versa. If you remember, you probably remember this, there was Bone Storm. And Bone Storm, how it worked is that if you had max runic power, it would drain down your runic power, right? And it was a major offensive spell, right? But it came at the cost of draining your runic power down, right? That's gone. There's no, and it's like they're stripping layers of thought process behind the class. This class is so bare bones. It's literally just Moren. Okay, now Death Strike. Oh, I can't do anything because my runic power's down. By the way, this character is well geared. This character's from the Mop remix. This is as geared as my warrior, so you should be doing like, you should have a fair amount of haste, and that's another issue in itself, right? Every class feels this slow. So you're just now using Heart Strike. Oh, I'm full on runic power. Death Strike. Oh, Morin again. Oh, there we go. And this is very boring. Like, this is just not, like, you compare this to War Within, and in Legion Remix, I played as a Death Knight, as you can see here. It's such a massive contrast because there was so much thought behind it. It's like, well, I want to use Tombstone now, you know, to generate those bone shields as like an extra shield right now, right? And run the risk of my Bone Shield being burned down, right? So that's the general gist of it. There's other, by the way, DK's, Frost DK, Unholy DK, and Blood, as bad as they are now, they're not the worst ones. The worst one, actually, I might show you the worst one real quickly. Let me get on my Hunter. BM Hunter, which I can't even fathom in my little, tiny 2-inch brain. They made it simpler. I don't even know how you can make BM simpler. It was already simpler. So let me log in. I haven't heard the full soundtrack yet. I've just been logging in on characters back and forth. Okay, so BM Hunter. You might think your rotation involves 4 and 5, but no, my rotation is literally this. The Cobra Strike, Kill Command, Barb Shot. And if it's AoE, I'm using this. And if this is because of my hero talent, because I could not imagine playing this without an extra button, I had to pick this. If I picked the other hero talent, I would not have number 2 on. So it's literally just, let's count, right? For single target. 1, 2, 3. And then with this one, because I picked it, right? I picked that as a hero talent. But if I didn't, I would be cooked. And then you have your major attack, your major cooldown, which is Bistro Wrath, right? Which it has a real cool interaction with Dark Ranger. But this is it. It's literally just this. This is your core rotation you're using, right? And that just feels bad. Like, there's no way around it. It just feels worse, right? Expansions, historically, they're about building up your class, not breaking them down. The only time we've ever broken down a class was in Warlords of Draenor, and that was because of Mists of Pandaria. your action bar was full of spells, right? This is all just a bunch of old shit I have, but your action bar was just straight up full of spells. There were so many spells actually in Mists of Pandaria that there was no reason to even put them on your action bar. That's how many spells we're talking about. And in WoD, it was like, okay, we're going to prune, but they went too far with WoD, and that was an issue, right? In this case, right, going from Warfin to this, understandably, they could have maybe removed a couple spells, right? But they've just gone overboard yet again, and I think it's to the detriment of a lot of classes, right? I think a lot of classes are just boring. Like, real, if you like that complexity of spec, like Druid, Healing Druid, Restoration. If you like that thing of like, oh, you're in combat and you're hitting, and then you switch back to your normal form and you heal, that's gone. That doesn't exist anymore. And if it does, and it exists partially, but it exists in such a neutered state, it's just not enjoyable to use. So this so far is Warfin at pre-patch. I'm hoping Blizzard gives way to the add-on change. I don't think they're going to make class changes. It's too late. I'd be shocked if they do class changes. But I think the feedback they've heard on the forums and on almost everywhere, YouTube videos, the forums, Reddit, it's just been negative. It's just been all negative. I've gone out of my way to try to see a positive comment, right? Because I'm curious, you know, if someone makes a positive comment, like why, you know, if they play WoW in a high end, like why do you think it's a good change? But I've yet to found one. If I find one, I'll let you know. I really think they're gonna go back on some of this add-on change, right? Like I think that's a matter of time because no one seems to like it. The class stuff, I think we're kind of cooked. I think this is going to be the rest of the expansion with the class stuff. And yeah, we'll see what happens, but it truly is midnight for WoW, I'll tell you that, bro. We're 2 minutes till midnight. But anyways, man, hope you enjoy it. Let me know what you think, all right? Peace.